Welcome to the Daily Globe. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. Across America's heartland, the hum of industry has faded, replaced by an unsettling quiet. Once bustling factories now stand silent, their machinery idle, their parking lots empty. The landscape is marked by the absence of workers and the echo of livelihoods put on hold. Tyson Foods, the nation's largest meat producer and a cornerstone of rural economies, has shuttered multiple plants, leaving entire communities reeling from the sudden loss. The closures have sent shockwaves through towns that depended on these jobs for stability and growth. These closures aren't just numbers on a balance sheet, they're stories of livelihoods lost, dreams deferred, and families forced to make impossible choices. For many, the factory was more than a job, it was a lifeline, a source of pride, and the heartbeat of the community. The ripple effects stretch far beyond Emporia, Kansas, or Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They expose the fragility of our food supply chain, the vulnerability of workers, and the real cost of relentless corporate efficiency. Empty shelves in grocery stores and rising prices remind us that these disruptions touch every American household. When a giant like Tyson closes its doors, it signals a seismic shift in the industry. It forces us to confront the concentration of power in our food systems, raising urgent questions about who controls our food and who bears the consequences when things go wrong. For thousands of workers, it's an immediate crisis. Families scrambling for new jobs in places where options are scarce and uncertainty hangs heavy in the air. The loss ripples through households, affecting not just incomes but hopes and futures. Local economies lose their anchors, small businesses struggle to survive, and the impact is both economic and deeply personal. The closure of a single plant can mean the unraveling of an entire community's fabric. As we explore Tyson's decisions, we'll uncover the historical context, the immediate fallout, and what it means for the future of food, labor, and community in America. We'll hear from those most affected and examine the broader forces at play. This is a story of disruption and the resilience that follows as communities come together to rebuild, adapt, and find hope in the face of uncertainty. To truly grasp the impact of these recent closures, it's important to look back at the roots and remarkable journey of Tyson Foods, a company that has shaped not just the food industry, but also the communities and economies around its plants. Understanding Tyson Foods' rise helps us see why these changes matter. The company's story is one of ambition, innovation, and constant adaptation to the shifting landscape of American agriculture and food production. Founded in 1935 by John W. Tyson during the Great Depression, the company began as a small operation hauling chickens from Arkansas to markets in the Midwest. Through hard work and a vision for the future, Tyson transformed his business from a local poultry hauler into a vertically integrated giant, controlling every step from farm to table and setting new standards for efficiency in the protein industry. Tyson's aggressive expansion strategy included major acquisitions, most notably the purchase of Iowa beef packers in 2001. This move didn't just increase Tyson's size, it made the company a global protein powerhouse, with influence reaching far beyond chicken into beef, pork, and prepared foods. Plants like Emporia and Philadelphia's cheesesteak facilities became part of Tyson's vast empire through these acquisitions, each one adding new products, jobs, and economic impact to the company's growing portfolio. But Tyson's growth has always come with cycles of consolidation, shifting production to newer, more efficient megaplants and closing older sites. This relentless drive for modernization has kept Tyson at the forefront of the industry, but it's also meant difficult transitions for workers and towns. The recent closures aren't an anomaly, they're part of a long pattern of optimizing for efficiency, often at the expense of local communities. Each closure leaves a mark, changing the fabric of small towns that once relied on these plants for stability and growth. Market pressures, like a shrinking cattle herd, rising costs, and changing consumer demand, have squeezed profits, pushing Tyson to cut underperforming assets and focus on its most productive operations. The result? Painful decisions that erase jobs and reshape entire towns, leaving uncertainty for families and local businesses that depended on Tyson's presence. Tyson's story is one of relentless growth, but also of the harsh realities of corporate strategy. The company's pursuit of efficiency and profit has brought both prosperity and hardship, often at the same time. The latest shutdowns are just the newest chapter in a long history of transformation, one that continues to shape the future of food, business, and the communities left in its wake. In late 2024, Tyson announced the closure of several key facilities across the country, sending ripples of uncertainty through the food processing industry and the communities that depend on it. The move was part of a sweeping restructuring plan aimed at consolidating operations and cutting costs amid changing market demands. The Emporia, Kansas beef and pork plant, a major local employer for decades, was set to close by June 2025, sending shockwaves through the community and leaving families anxious about their future. In Philadelphia, 2 cheesesteak plants faced shutdown by January 2025, abruptly ending steady jobs for hundreds of workers who had built their lives around these factories. Over 800 jobs vanished in Emporia, and 229 in Philadelphia, more than 1,000 lives upended in a single corporate decision, with ripple effects felt throughout local businesses and schools. Tyson's official line was, "We're optimizing our network, emphasizing efficiency and long-term growth." But for workers, the reality is far more complicated. Relocation to distant plants is rarely realistic, especially for those with deep roots in their hometowns. Most are left to compete for scarce local jobs, face the daunting prospect of uprooting their families, or even consider leaving the industry altogether. Operations from Emporia will shift to a larger plant in Holcomb, Kansas, over 200 miles away, a move that's simply not feasible for many. These closures are more than just calendar dates. They're turning points for entire communities, affecting everything from local economies to school enrollments. The impact is permanent, not temporary. Once these jobs are gone, they rarely return, leaving a void that's hard to fill. For many, it's the end of an era, a painful reminder of how quickly the landscape of American industry can change. The economic fallout in Emporia is staggering, over 800 jobs lost in a city of 24,000. Unemployment nearly doubled, and hundreds of families now face financial uncertainty. Tyson's offer to relocate workers helps only a handful. Most remain, competing for limited local jobs. In Philadelphia, 229 jobs lost may seem smaller, but for those families, the blow is just as severe. These were stable, well-paying jobs, now gone, adding to a national trend of deindustrialization. Local governments scrambled to respond, launching job fairs and retraining programs, but recovery is slow. The loss of a major employer ripples through the economy, hurting small businesses and shrinking tax revenues. Official optimism can't mask the pain. The scars from Tyson's departure will linger for years. The numbers tell a clear story. Recovery will be long and difficult. Communities are left to pick up the pieces. The path forward is uncertain. When a plant like Tyson's closes, it's like pulling a keystone from a bridge. The whole structure trembles. In Emporia, the plant was the economic engine, supporting local diners, shops, mechanics, and realtors. With paychecks gone, consumer spending plummets and small businesses struggle to survive. The city faces budget shortfalls, forcing cuts to schools, roads, and public services. The social fabric phrase, generations who worked at the plant lose a source of pride and identity. Unemployment brings stress, anxiety, and increased demand for food banks and mental health services. Yet, adversity sparks resilience. Neighbors help neighbors, charities step up, and leaders mobilize resources. Emporia's rapid response team is a testament to this spirit, aiming to diversify the economy and attract new industries. The road ahead is tough, but the community's response offers hope. Recovery is possible, but it will take time and unity. Tyson's closures echo across the national food industry, revealing deep vulnerabilities. A shrinking cattle herd drives up costs, squeezing profits and forcing consolidation into the most efficient plants. This isn't unique to Tyson. Other giants like Cargill and Foster Farms are also closing facilities. Industry consolidation means fewer companies control more of the supply, creating choke points and reducing competition. Disruptions at mega plants can ripple through the entire food chain, affecting prices and availability nationwide. Farmers and ranchers are squeezed too, facing lower prices for their products and higher costs to comply with new regulations. The entire system is under pressure, from producers to processors to consumers. Tyson's decisions are a symptom of these larger systemic forces. Experts see Tyson's closures as a classic case of capital mobility. Corporations chasing efficiency, often at workers' expense. Labor economists note that automation and consolidation boost profits but devastate local economies. Agricultural experts point to market concentration. With just 4 companies controlling most of the beef market, plant closures hit ranchers hard, reducing their options and income. Food system analysts warn that efficiency comes at the cost of resilience. Fewer, larger plants mean greater risk of widespread disruption. They urge investment in smaller, regional facilities to strengthen the food system. Worker advocates argue that optimizing the network often means prioritizing profit over people, calling for stronger protections and retraining support. The consensus: these closures highlight the need for a more balanced, resilient, and equitable food industry. The debate is about more than numbers, it's about the future of work and food in America. Plant closures in an election year become political flashpoints, fueling debates about American jobs and corporate responsibility. Politicians seize on these events to promise action, while local officials scramble for federal aid and economic redevelopment. The pressure to do something is immense, but solutions are elusive. There's speculation that Canada could benefit, filling supply gaps or recruiting displaced workers, but no clear evidence yet. The bigger questions remain. Will government step in to help towns like Emporia recover? Will there be antitrust action against industry giants? What responsibility does a corporation owe to the communities it leaves behind? These questions will shape policy debates for years to come. Tyson's closures reveal the human cost behind corporate efficiency. Over 1,000 families facing upheaval and communities left to rebuild. These silent factories are more than assets. They're symbols of lives and identities disrupted. We've seen how market forces, corporate strategy, and industry pressures converge to reshape entire towns. The response from Emporia and others shows resilience, but local courage alone can't solve systemic problems. This moment demands a broader conversation about corporate responsibility and public policy. We must ask, do we want an economy that values only efficiency, or one that protects communities and workers? The Tyson story is a warning, but also a call to action for a more resilient, equitable future. The lesson is clear: we can't afford to ignore the human cost of efficiency.